Welcome, everyone, to Buddhist Center. It's so wonderful to see all of you here tonight. We get to discuss, it's our privilege to discuss the stages of the path to enlightenment as explained by Lama Tsongkhapa. And anytime that I get to do that or think about those kinds of things, it's just such an incredible experience for me because this is the real medicine that can, if I take it, get me to all of the goals that I really want. And those are freedom from suffering and the most immense amount of happiness possible. So we're so fortunate to be able to discuss these things. And let's really rejoice and just take a moment to think about this opportunity that we have with this precious human basis to practice these teachings, these flawless teachings that have been passed down from Buddha Shakyamuni to us. Now let's begin by setting the most incredible motivation in the universe, the highest motivation that we can have, and that's bodhicitta. By recognizing just like us, all sentient beings, as it says in Lama Tsongkhapa's three principal aspects of the path, are swept in the current of the four powerful rivers, tied by strong bonds of karma, so hard to undo, caught in the iron net of self-grasping ignorance, completely enveloped by the darkness of ignorance, born and reborn in boundless cyclic existence, ceaselessly tormented by the three miseries. Thinking of your mothers in this condition, generate the supreme mind of bodhicitta. This supreme mind that when we generate it, puts us on the path that will only result in the fulfillment of all of our needs and all sentient beings' needs. And like ourselves, all sentient beings have the 8 types of suffering, the 6 types of suffering, and among the 3 types of suffering. And we know that we want to definitely emerge from those things. So we recognize that just like ourselves, all our dear mother sentient beings are caught in this state of cyclic existence. And we think to ourselves, may I become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings, to again fulfill all of my needs and all of sentient beings' needs. I'm here tonight to learn exactly how to become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings. I will settle for nothing less than unsurpassable, true, complete enlightenment, because I know that my mind can transform to that state of perfection, because I have all of the instructions that are necessary to take my mind from the place that it is right now to the state of omniscience, because I have Buddha nature. All sentient beings have Buddha nature. To be able to give us some courage to see role models and to be able to receive the blessings of the lineage. Now imagine the merit field in the space in front of you. All the holy lamas, imagining all the lamas passed down, imagining Buddha Shakyamuni in the center of the merit field, your root lamas, the extensive deeds lineage, profound view lineage, the lineage of blessings, all of the holy beings are in the space in front of you. All of those incredible Tibetan masters from the Nyingma, Kagyu, Sakya, and Gelug traditions that have passed down these pure lineages to us. Imagine them in the space in front of us, all of the 4 classes of Tantra beings, all of the 35 Buddhas, all the protector deities are all right here with us. They're always here with us. These beings have made pacts to be able to work for our needs with themselves. And these motivations, these aspirations that they've put in their minds on the Bodhisattva path make it so they are just helping machines. And imagine that we're relying on helping machines that are not only wanting to help, but are totally qualified to help because they're omniscient and they have great love and compassion for all sentient beings. Imagine these beings are in the space in front of you. And now, because you've said, may I become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings, share this time with sentient beings. Bring them, bringing them in your mind here to be able to share this teaching with them so that they can hear the stage of the path to enlightenment that will allow them to achieve all of their goals. And we know that all sentient beings just want happiness and just want to be free from suffering, just like us. There's no being in the universe that isn't looking for happiness, a sense of ease, and a freedom from suffering, just like us. And imagine that we're bringing every single sentient being here in the universe, and we're doing it with respect to our practice. We're thinking about it in terms of what we've been able to do Since last week, for instance, since last year, since 2 years ago, what we've been able to do, what we've been able to change within our minds that makes this process more real and makes our affinity for sentient beings and all of them bigger and bigger and bigger. So imagine we're inviting sentient beings in the order that we invite them once we get to this idea of love and compassion and the generosity of the Dharma, imagining you're inviting all beings, beginning with friends and then neutral beings, and then people that you find quite difficult, and then all other sentient beings. Imagine they're filling in the space all around you, and you've led them here to be able to hear these teachings on the stage of the path to enlightenment. Hell beings, hungry ghost beings, animals, humans, demigods, gods, all of the realms of the God's realm, the desire realm, the form and formless realm. Imagining every single sentient being is here in order to hear what they need to hear. Those high form realm beings who thought that just dwelling in single pointed concentration at the peak of existence was liberation are shaken out of that concentration level and brought here to hear that there is more that you have to do. You have to realize emptiness and combine it with that concentration that you've become so good at. Because without doing that, you will never, ever be able to leave cyclic existence, and you will just be ejected from samsaric bodies and formless bodies, if you will, among the 4 or 5 aggregates, heaps again and again and again into more heaps and more heaps and more contaminated heaps without getting rid of self-grasping ignorance. It's not possible to eject from samsara. You will just eject from samsaric bodies and go into new samsaric bodies. And we look at that 12 links of dependent origination and we see this process, and that's just how it works. The time of death, we are ejected from this body by our throwing karma into another existence. At that potential existence point, we're ejected and we have a birth. We have a new type of form that we take on, and all of the memories of this life and all of the things that we were so attached to vanish, and we're starting fresh, confused. And if we can make it so that at that point in time we have a little bit more control than confusion, we have a chance to continue our practice in our next life, to continue our practice even in the bardo, in the intermediate state, in the between state, if we've studied enough and practiced enough in the life before we actually die. We have to do this work before, that thing that comes that we just don't even anticipate coming because we grasp at ourselves as being permanent. But death will come and nothing can stop it. We don't know when that's going to happen. And the only thing that can help us at that time is the Dharma practice that we've done and what we carry with us. The things we've done, the white or black, and what those deeds will bring to me follow always close behind, as certain as my shadow, as it says in Lama Tsongkhapa's Foundation of All Good Qualities. So we remember this, and when we become more and more familiar with this, and we look at what it will take for us to achieve that state of happiness that we crave, that isn't a contaminated happiness, and achieve that freedom from suffering that never ends. When we look what it'll take, and we look at what all the causes and conditions are that will be necessary to make that separation of the afflictive obstructions and the obstructions to omniscience occur, we begin to recognize the enormity of our job, but then also rejoice in dependent origination by recognizing that all phenomena arise from causes, and the causes are taught by the Tathagata. The cessation of causes as well are taught by the great seer, the essence of dependent origination mantra. We're so fortunate to have these teachings in our life. Now, again, we're sharing them with all sentient beings. Imagine that I'm able to, and they're speak in all of the various languages, which I can't do, but eventually when I become a Buddha, I know I will be able to do and speak to the various aptitudes. So imagine that you're bringing sentient beings, to a teaching that makes sense to bring them to, because it's a teaching on the stages of the path to enlightenment that encompasses all of the teachings of Lord Buddha, everything that a sentient being needs in order to go from wherever he or she is at to the complete state of Buddhahood. So we know that we're bringing sentient beings to a good place, because all sentient beings want is happiness, and a nonstop happiness, and a freedom from suffering. And the only way to get those things, to really get those things, is to rely upon this practice that we're learning about tonight. Imagine that all these sentient beings are witnessing the merit field in the space in front of you, and they're feeling cold chills and just feeling just an immense amount of happiness and bliss by being able to experience so many beings in the space in front of them who don't have ulterior motives, who only cherish that, who only have the idea that they want to help. These beings cherish you more than they cherish themselves. And being in the presence of an enormous amount of those kinds of beings is incredibly moving. And imagine that you have this moving experience. All the beings around you have this moving experience. And all the enlightened beings in the space in front of you are full of bliss at seeing the fact that we're here assembled to learn exactly what they came to this world to teach. Now, we imagine that the space in front of us transforms into Rajagriha Vulture Peak Mountain, where the Heart Sutra, the second turning of the wheel of Dharma, takes place. We said, I want to become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings. But in order for us to become a Buddha, we must combine method with wisdom. Method alone, no matter what, if we practice it for countless eons, will never get us to the state of Buddhahood. Compassion alone will never get us to the state of Buddhahood. It's necessary for us to combine that method of compassion with wisdom. And we see at the second turning of the wheel of Dharma, the Buddha teaches us what that wisdom is that needs to be united with bodhicitta. And when we see emptiness, it's called ultimate bodhicitta, needs to be united with bodhicitta in order to have the accumulations necessary to create the various bodies of the Buddha, the form bodies and the truth bodies of the Buddha. These various accumulations are necessary along the path. So recognizing that we need both sides of the coin, if you will, method and wisdom in order to achieve complete Buddhahood, we must learn what emptiness is. So this is the wisdom side that we must unite with the method side. We know that there are ripening paths and there are liberating paths, and the only liberating path is the wisdom realizing emptiness. And all of the other perfections, Bodhisattva Shantideva says, lead us up to being able to have this liberating path. The only liberating path that cuts the afflictive obstructions and cuts the obstructions to omniscience when combined with the correct ripening paths that will do them. And we learned all about these different things as we've gone through this over the years, so I won't go into that now. But let's just think of this opportunity that we have. We have a completely full path in front of us. We have the path of method that's been taught so clearly, and the teachings shared of common with beings of small and medium capacity, and the teachings for beings of great capacity, all those method sides of the ripening paths taught. And then in the medium scope and in the great scope, we find the necessity, whether you want to become a here, a solitary realizer in an abiding nirvana, or you want complete Buddhahood, the necessity of realizing the emptiness according to the Madhyamaka Prasangika system, the emptiness of inherent existence of all phenomena. And that's all phenomena, the Four Noble Truths, the Buddha, emptiness, everything in the universe is empty of inherent existence. And we only come to find that out by engaging in ultimate analysis. And the conclusion of ultimate analysis, which is looking for an objectively existent, an inherently existent object of some sort, the conclusion of ultimate analysis is that there is a non-finding of something that exists from its own side, independent of an imputing consciousness or of a merely imputing consciousness. So when we're looking with ultimate analysis for the things in the Heart Sutra that it appears says don't exist, we're looking at things that have a mode of existence that we will come to find out or not find. We will come to find out doesn't exist. We will have a non-finding of the mode of existence of inherent existence or established by way of its own character that takes place with this ultimate analysis. But this ultimate analysis doesn't deny the existence of the things that it's analyzing. It's just denying the existence of inherently existent thing that it's analyzing. So when we come to deny, we come to find that there is a denial of or a non-finding of objective existence, inherent existence, an establishment of by way of its own character of an object. When we come to find this non-finding, and we recognize that there's a non-affirming negative, a not related to this thing that we're looking for, an inherently existent self of person, for instance, that can stand on its own, separate or independent of mere imputation, on a dependent on, for me, the 5 aggregates that serve as a basis of designation, looking for something, searching for something that exists in that way. So when we look in the Heart Sutra and we find these negations, there's not a negation of existence, there's a negation of inherent existence. And the lower schools of Buddhism believe that inherent existence and an existence mean exactly the same thing. But the very razor sharp, fine point that the Buddha is making in the second turning of the wheel of Dharma is that these things that we think exist by way of their own character are empty of that status. But when we come out of ultimate analysis and come to find the things are still around us and recognize that Jeff is still talking in front of a computer with various folks listening, then we have to somehow figure out how to make those two harmonious. How, when I just found something doesn't exist, but then I come out of that ultimate analysis and find things that do exist, I have to find a harmony between those two things somehow. And that's called the harmony of emptiness and dependent arising. So I come to find out, after I recognize this non-finding of inherent existence, a mere non-finding that doesn't imply anything else other than a non-finding of inherent existence, when I come out of that ultimate analysis and I back to where things are appearing again, because in ultimate analysis, these this phenomena that I was analyzing, because I'm analyzing something that doesn't exist, it's not there. So when I come back to conventional analysis and the object appears again, I have to have this harmony. I have to figure out how this can be. So there must be a mode of existence that is going on different than this independent existence that I grasp at. And when I come to find out that independent existence doesn't exist, and I come to find out that things are still going on around me, I have to then come to the conclusion that there is an existence by subjectivity, a subjective existence that's going on that is a mere imputation from the side of the subject. Since beginningless time, I've just assumed and never really thought about it, that everything was just right within objects, right from the side of the object. I'm right within me. That table's right within itself. That the designated object table and the basis of designation, those parts and stuff over there, are synonymous. I believed this my whole life, but we come to find out that this is not the case. There's a mutual exclusivity between this basis of designation, these parts and this whole and parts and so forth, and this label that I'm giving it. Because there isn't this label, this thing that I've just made up in my mind, that's this table that exists from the side of the object. There isn't a shoe that exists from the side of the object because my dog thinks it's a toy. Then and in the dog's world, that's a valid consciousness. I would think that the rest of the dogs might agree with my dog that chews on shoes, that it's suitable to chew on, unless they've been yelled at before and are like, oh, you're going to get in trouble. But you see what I'm saying? The basis of designation, the thing on the out there that, like a thing on a screen, looks like it's coming from the screen, is coming from a projector. But there's something external there on the screen. So if we can undo the misunderstanding about how we think things have a mode of existence that they don't, and we come to recognize a mode of existence that tallies with reality, the distorted thinking that serves as a cradle for all of our delusions isn't there. And if there isn't a cradle for the delusions, they all just melt and disappear. Like Geshe Dorje Damdula and Lord Atisha actually talks about, when stories and stories of houses are built on top of on top of ice. All you have to do is melt the ice, and no matter how many stories are built on that ice, they will all collapse. So we're really fortunate to have this medicine that will allow us to collapse this house of that's a self-cherishing attitude, self-grasping ignorance has built that has hurt us so badly. And we're fortunate that we have these teachings that can teach us how to melt that foundation of ignorance that gives rise to the inappropriate attention, where we perceive things to have an intrinsically existent attractiveness or unattractiveness that then makes us react in ways where we are pushed towards things or pulled towards things. And in that process, we create contaminated actions because their actions are contaminated because they're under the influence of those and driven by those afflictions. And when we have afflictions and we have contaminated karmas, we necessarily have cyclic existence. We necessarily have samsara. And the only way to undo that samsara is to find out, when we bash away all of the messiness of our mind, what is the terrorist driving all of these bad actions? And when we look really closely, we'll find it's the self-grasping ignorance with a complementary side item, that work together, of the self-cherishing attitude. So we have to contemplate this and think about how this brings about all our suffering, how exaggerating items makes us think about them in ways that builds them up more and more and more and really drives us crazy. I mean, we can literally hear something on the news and have our entire day ruined because we're the childish. We aren't grown up enough to see that this is just a deceptive truth. This is all mistaken. This is a concealment of what's really there. We think it's all really from its side. We think that these conventional truths that we're grasping at exist from their own side, and we really need to do something about them. But when we come to find out that this just isn't the case, we become more realistic. We become better equipped to actually handle helping in the conventional world. And Master Vasubandhu says that one way we know that the afflictions will come is if, one, we haven't gotten rid of the afflictions. That's a no-brainer, right? Two, we're too close to that object. We're too close to that thing we're not in any condition to be that close to. Unless we want our minds disturbed, unless we want to feel bad, we're not in any condition to be so close to that object. We think that we are. We think that we're brave because we can get so close to this object that disturbs our mind. But the fact is that we're being quite stupid and ineffective and just causing others to be quite stupid and quite ineffective by spreading more and more inappropriate attention and more anger and more attachment, by giving the gift to others of more attachment and more anger, handing out an unpleasant, disturbed feeling. We know afflictions are a mental factor, the presence of which disturbs the mind. So if we're too close to the object and we're not really prepared because we're the childish, as Master Shantideva mentions over and over again, when we're too close to that object, what we do, we have this third thing that Acharya Vasubandhu will say will happen, and that's an inappropriate attention. And we'll create such a mess about that object and exaggerate it so much and concretize it beyond a shadow of a doubt in terms of how we see it as unattractive or attractive. And we won't really stop. That's the problem with it, because we won't move away from that thing that's so disturbing to us because we are so used to feeling bad. We're so used to feeling like we have to fix things that we have absolutely no control over. We're so used to feeling like we're the masters of the universe, and if only someone would listen to me, then we could fix all this. We're so used to having this feeling because of the concrete appearances that we have about ourselves and about everything around us. And if everybody in the world, think about a stadium, is all under the influence, like an intoxicant, of mistaken appearances, and they all have their own individual karmas and have their own individual affinities, like I have all my own individual affinities, And you may like flowers. I don't like flowers. You may like Indian food. And I like Indian food. We have commonalities. We have differences. We don't agree. It's because of all this exaggeration and the concrete making of the world around us that is just like a reed, is just dependent origination, is just causes and conditions coming up and happening. And we see it as something that's just a solid thing. And really, it's just a big movement, like wings on a bird moving all over the place. And and we see it, though, as something that's so concrete. We don't see all of these innumerable causes and conditions that are coming together, that if we only had so much power, and this isn't an excuse not to do anything for the world, but this is saying, don't do things for the world that are going to hurt you and hurt the world more. Anger, as a sentient being, you're in an entity called sentient beings. And you're in an entity called the human race. You're in an entity, if you're in the United States, of beings who are in the United States. When we get angry, we weaken that entity. We think we're doing so much for the entity of humanity when we're only weakening it by becoming angry, by not knowing how to control ourselves, by saying bad things with our mouths and doing bad things with our bodies. And our minds are just so in turmoil because we haven't figured out things are impermanent. Happiness, we think, is really suffering. The things we think are so clean are really dirty. And the self we think that is autonomous and substantially real isn't. And the self that we think and the I and mind that we believe inherently exist don't. And we're starting from a false premise that Buddha Shakyamuni was so kind in the second turning of the wheel of Dharma to say is a false premise. The mode of existence is emptiness of inherent existence. The intrinsic existence of things is emptiness of intrinsic existence, while still being able to posit still having a harmony with karma and its results and functionality. There's got to be a compatibility there. And when you see that things are empty of intrinsic existence, therefore they can function. And this is what Arya Nagarjuna came to give us that's so precious. The lower schools, or the ceilings that are not as high, and the tenet systems below, the Prasangika tenet systems, say things can't function if they're empty of intrinsic existence. And Nagarjuna says, this is funny, because it seems like you've maybe forgotten who you are. And I'm saying, you're really caught up in saying everything has cause and effect, and you have to show how this all functions. And I'm saying, Arya Nagarjuna is saying that things can't possibly function if they aren't empty of intrinsic existence. If they're intrinsically existent, they have to be permanent. And this makes it so cause and effect doesn't work at all. So I'm actually going to use your argument right against you, Arya Nagarjuna says, because your argument makes no sense that things intrinsically exist so they could actually function. Precious medicine, the Sutra of the Heart of Transcendent Knowledge. And also here, second turning of the wheel of Dharma, hidden within this, we find the 5 paths, the path of accumulation, preparation, seeing, meditation, and no more learning. Okay, the Sutra of the Heart of Transcendent Knowledge. Thus have I heard once the Blessed One was dwelling in Rajagriha at Vulture Peak Mountain, together with a great gathering of the Sangha of monks and a great gathering of the Sangha of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One entered the samadhi that expresses the Dharma called profound illumination. At the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, while practicing the profound Prajaparamita, saw in this way, saw the 5 skandhas to be empty of nature. Then, through the power of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, how should a son or daughter of noble family train who wishes to practice the profound Prajaparamita? Addressed in this way, noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, said to Venerable Shariputra, O Shariputra, a son or daughter of noble family who wishes to practice the profound Prajaparamita should see in this way, seeing the 5 skandhas to be empty of nature. Form is emptiness, emptiness also is form, emptiness is no other than form, form is no other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, perception, formation, and consciousness are emptiness. Thus, Shariputra, all dharmas are emptiness. There are no characteristics, there is no birth and no cessation. There is no impurity and no purity. There is no decrease and no increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no perception, no formation, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no dharmas, no I dhatu, no mind dhatu, no dhatu of dharmas, no mind consciousness dhatu, no ignorance, no end of ignorance up to old age and death, no end of old age and death, no suffering, no origin of suffering, no cessation of suffering, no path, no wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, since the bodhisattvas have no attainment, they abide by means of Prajaparamita. Since there is no obscuration of mind, there is no fear. They transcend falsity and attain complete nirvana. All the Buddhas of the three times by means of Prajaparamita fully awaken to unsurpassable, true, complete enlightenment. Therefore, the great mantra Prajaparamita, the mantra of great insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequal mantra, the mantra that calms all suffering, should be known as truth, since there is no deception. Prajaparamita mantra is said in this way: Te ata om gate gate paragate parasangate bodhisoha. Thus, Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, should train in the profound Prajaparamita. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and praised noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, saying, Good, good, O son of noble family, thus it is, O son of noble family, thus it is. One should practice the profound Prajaparamita just as you have taught, and all the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, venerable Shariputra, noble Avalokiteshvara, and the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, the whole assembly in the world with its gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, rejoiced and praised the words of the Blessed One. Gala jube nejo damba nengu do jungai do jendu baba lama ibergenzi nizong gandrozo la jazelo agasamara dajandara samara be agasamara jandara samara. Aga samara dajandara samara abe de ata on gate gate parasangate bodhisoha papa gonja zonji gaye dembe doji shil lobo doji mepo doji shiwa doji dagi baji medo beje janji jenin goyes oha kirin donja jeju shwa dan midun neve jandandro dan tumba donji bonzon zonjoji dashi de jandanda de le sho. We'll make a outer mandala offering, and we'll include the source of all my good, as we've been doing the foundation of all good qualities in the outer mandala offering. And we see, when we look at the 6 preparations, and we get to the 6th preparation, where it says to make this mandala offering and further supplications. These supplications that we're making are very similar to these supplications that Lama Tsongkhapa is making in this precious 14-stanza poem. These supplications are quite similar. And it's important for us to remember, as we're reciting this, which we'll again implant into the mandala offering, that we're thinking about Master Pabongka Rinpoche's kind of summary, kind of outline, if you will, of this text in his beautiful commentary, little short commentary that he wrote. And we see that the first section is about the teacher, how to find the teacher, how to serve and follow a teacher. The second section is what to do once you've found a teacher. The third section is making a supplication, a wish that all obstacles are removed and all good things are there. So there's no obstacles, and that everything is cleared away in terms of your ability to practice. And then the final category, a prayer of supplication that in all your lives you're never separated from holy lamas, and that you'll be able to achieve the various levels of the stages of the path to be able to become Vajradhara yourself. So this is something that we will all discover ourselves. No one can discover it for us. No one can give it to us. No one can wash us and make us clean. No one can transfer a realization from their mind to our mind. This is the work that we have to do on our own minds. But the good, amazing part is that we have the instructions. We know what needs to be done because Buddha Shakyamuni was so kind to come to this world and teach us. The Nalanda masters were so kind to pass it down. The Dharma-gupta tradition, the Mulasarvastavadi tradition, the Pali tradition, the Theravada tradition, all of these masters were so kind. So we have the formula in our world to know what we need to do. And let us make a mandala offering now as a request for teaching, offering a perfect universe to the merit field and to the teacher to be able to request, so we request this teaching. The fundamental ground is scented with incense and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the 4 continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this is a Buddha land and offer it. May all sentient beings enjoy this pure realm. Holy Lamas high, wrap the sky of your Dharma bodies in massive clouds of knowledge and love, and let them pour upon the earth of your disciples as we are ready. A shower of rain, the teachings deep and wide. The source of all my good is my kind Lama, my Lord. Bless me first to see that taking myself to him or her in the very proper way is the very root of the path, and grant me then to serve and follow them with all my strength and reverence. Bless me first to realize that the excellent life of leisure I found just this once is ever so hard to find and ever so valuable. Grant me then to wish and never stop to wish that I could take its essence night and day. My body and the life in it are fleeting as the bubbles in the sea froth of a wave. Bless me first thus to recall the death that will destroy me soon, and help me find sure knowledge that after I've died, the things I've done, white or black, and what those deeds will bring to me, follow always close behind, as certain as my shadow. Grant me then ever to be careful to stop the slightest wrongs of the many wrongs that we do, and try to carry out instead each and every good of the many that we may. Bless me to perceive all that's wrong with the seemingly good things of this life. I can never get enough of them. They cannot be trusted. They are the door to every pain I have. Grant me then to strive instead for the happiness of freedom. Grant that these pure thoughts may lead me to be watchful and recall what I should be doing. Grant me to give the greatest care to make the vows of morality, the pradamoksha vows, the essence of my practice. They are the root of Buddha's teachings. I have slipped and fallen into the sea of this suffering life. Bless me to see that every living being, everyone my own mother, has fallen into. Grant me then to practice the wish for enlightenment, to take on myself the task of freeing them all. Bless me to see clearly that the wish itself is not enough, for if I'm not well trained in the three moralities, I cannot become a Buddha. Grant me then a fierce resolve to master the Bodhisattva vows. Grant that I may quickly gain the path where quietude and insight join together, one which quiets my mind from being distracted to wrong objects, the other which analyzes the perfect meaning in the correct way. Grant that once I practice well the path shared and become a vessel that is worthy, I enter with perfect ease the way of the diamond, highest of all ways, holiest door to come inside for the fortunate and good. Bless me to know with genuine certainty that when I've entered thus, the cause that gives me both the high attainments is to keep my pledges and my vows most pure. Grant me then always to keep them, even if it costs my life. Bless me next to realize as well as I can the crucial points of both the steps, the essence of the secret ways. Grant me then to practice as the holy ones have spoken, putting all my effort in and never leaving off the practice of the 4 times, highest that there is. Bless me, grant me that the spiritual friend who shows me this good road and all my true companions in this quest live long and fruitful lives. Bless and grant me that the rain of obstacles, things within me or outside me that could stop me now, stop and end forever. In all my lives, may I never live apart from my perfect lamas. May I bask in the glory of the Dharma. May I fulfill perfectly every good quality of every level and path, and reach then quickly the place where I become myself, the one who holds the diamond. I send forth this jeweled mandala to you, precious Guru. Okay, so it's so nice to be with you this evening. It's the anniversary of Geshe Lobsang Gompo Rinpoche's Paranirvana. I don't know, I don't remember. I think Priscilla, you knew Geshe Lobsang Gompo Rinpoche, I believe, when he was at the Chenrezig Center. Maybe not, I could be wrong. But I really felt so fortunate to study under Geshe Lobsang Gompo's guidance. When I was in Drepung Losaling in 2000, I stayed for around a year. And when I went to go, Kensur Geshe Wandak Rinpoche said that he basically said, your teacher, when you get to Drepung Losaling, will be Geshe Lobsang Gompo Rinpoche. And he was one of Rinpoche's students from in Tibet. He was his actual, they lived in the same room, and Rinpoche taught him. He was his room teacher, if you will. This is how much of it went on and still goes on, that you have a teacher, you go to the room and you learn from. And in this case, Geshe Lobsang Gompo lived with Rinpoche, served as his attendant, and they had a very, very close connection, even though they were quite close in age. You know, Geshe Lobsang Gompo Rinpoche only got to Drepung Losaling 2 years after Rinpoche. They became extremely close, and Geshe Lobsang Gompo served him as an attendant, the way that you read about, basically, whilst doing incredible miraculous activities and so forth. I won't go into his whole story, but Lori and I were so fortunate this morning to have class with Umzala Geshe Aga and Drepung Losaling Umza Geshe Aga, and we have, you know, classes sometimes a couple times a week with him. Right now we're studying Kamala Shila's medium stages of meditation. So fortunate. And Umzala was telling us a lot of the stories of Geshe Lobsang Gompo's and the group that left Tibet in 1959 and the trials and tribulations that happened. And really, like Geshe Lobsang Gompo, when you hear the stories of what went on, it was really a great bodhisattva, traveling in 1959 under extremely harsh circumstances and threat of being killed, and folks in their party that left were killed. And one of the members of the party that was with them was actually shot in the foot. And the story is that Geshe Lobsang Gompo helped carry him on his back because he begged them not to leave him and let him die. So Geshe Gompo carried him on his back. And when they got to India, did so much work to there were no books, and making printed press and working with Khenpo Pema Jetsun Rinpoche so that we can study so easily now. It wasn't so easy then in 1959, and up until, they had a lot of difficulties. They were refugees. They didn't have books. They were living in a British prison camp. And Umzala Aga said that with all these difficulties and how hard it was, that never once, and Khenpo Geshe Wandak Rinpoche told me the same thing, never once did Geshe Lobsang Gompo Rinpoche complain. And he was a great bodhisattva. So when I got to a great enlightened being, when I got to Drepung, he became my teacher for the collected topics. And then when we brought him back to the United States for a couple of years, and he taught me the mind and its functions teachings. And I'll never forget the day that I got to South India, and I looking around, asking everybody, where's Go Compson? Where's this room? And I finally made it to Geshe Lobsang Gompo's room, because I was on this quest, because Khenpo Geshe Wandak Rinpoche had asked me to go right there. And he said, this is who you will study with. And I opened the door, and I had literally like being hit in the chest with a feeling of a connection with Geshe-la. And he and I, as we got closer together, just started to weep, and we touched our heads together. And this is where our relationship began. And yeah, I've had just so many special teachers. I'm so fortunate. And so he gave me these keys to learn how to look at texts, to learn how to logically look at texts. Like the first Dalai Lama, Gendon Drup, Jao Gendon Drup, talks about the kind of logic teachings, the Pramanavartika Karika, and those teachings are really the key that get you into all of the doors to be able to really differentiate what is and what isn't, and how things can exist but not inherently exist, and what it is exactly that we're not finding when we meditate and actually see emptiness, which is just a non-finding. We're not actually seeing, like we think about it, we talk like, oh, we're seeing emptiness, but it's a non-finding. That's the emptiness. It's not like a thing. It's not like a positive phenomena that we now know, and that's like our thing now. We have to realize it's just a non-finding of something we thought was always there. So it's extremely difficult to figure out what the object of negation is. And without the keys of logic and reasoning, I would find it almost impossible to read some of the things that I'm reading today. So I just want to say thank you so much to Geshe Lobsang Gompo Rinpoche. And his root student was Umzala Geshe Aga Rinpoche, who's now teaching us. And if he could only see, and he can, how wonderful Umzala Geshe Aga is now, and how patient he is, and how much effort, just day and night. I mean, he teaches us until 11 o'clock p.m. I'm in bed at like 8 p.m. He's up a similar time that I'm up in the morning, and then he's still teaching us at 11 p.m. sometimes in India's standard time, and totally full of energy and just happy. Why? Because he had a good teacher, not because he was born special. Maybe he was born really special. I don't know. But we can't look at mystical things. We say he had a good teacher. He implemented the things that the good teacher told him to implement. And now look at the glorious person that's come about. You and I can have this glorious mind, just like our teachers, if we implement these teachings. It's like a guarantee. So let's take a quick look at what I brought it up. I have the book over here. So Pabonka Rinpoche says that we break this text into 4 categories. The root of the path is the Lama, how to train your mind once you've taken a Lama, and then how to train your mind once you've taken a Lama, you see, gets into the part of kind of an advice to take the essence of the life. Uh, once you found a Lama, you should come to the conclusion that you should take the essence of this life. You have this life of leisure and opportunity that's difficult to find and easily lost. So there's an encouragement here. You must do something with this life. And the best thing to do with it is to practice the teachings for beings of 3 capacities. So in the Lamrim Chemo, After Leisure and Opportunity, it gives you the brochure handout of what all those things you could do with this human life. And in this short poem, it just goes through it stanza by stanza, the small scope, the medium scope, and the great scope. And then a request that you can attain all favorable conditions for succeeding in the path and stop everything that might prevent you from doing so. That's that 13th stanza, and then a prayer that in all your future lives you can be taken care of by a Lama. And you can have the strength to end this, to end the lack of, happiness that's the highest state, and to end the suffering forever. Wow. So we are in the section on bodhicitta, where we start to recognize that, like I read from the 3 principal paths, that like ourselves, all sentient beings have slipped and fallen into a suffering life. It says, bless me to see that every living being, my own mother, has fallen into. Bless me, grant me then to practice the wish for enlightenment, to take on myself the task of freeing them all. Excuse me. Okay. So in here, I thought I'd read a little of this commentary. If though we lack this great wish, then if we lack this great wish, if we don't have bodhicitta, it doesn't matter how many great virtues we might possess. Abilities like being able to meditate on the ultimate view, where we see that things have no nature on their own. What was I talking about? You have to have method and wisdom. So emptiness alone can't get you to Buddhahood. You have to have this other side of the coin, which is bodhicitta, with the foundation of renunciation under it. So abilities like being able to meditate on the ultimate view, we may be able to see that things are empty of inherent existence. We still won't be able to join the ranks of those on the greater way, much less reach enlightenment. And so the wish is vital. So if we don't have this bodhicitta, we haven't entered the Mahayana, because bodhicitta is the entrance to the Mahayana. We haven't become a bodhisattva. And without becoming a bodhisattva on the Mahayana path, you can't become a Buddha. If you see emptiness directly, you can achieve a state of hero solitary realizer, nirvana, and an abiding nirvana, but you can't achieve all of your aims and all sentient beings' aims. You can't become a Buddha without this mind that aspires to enlightenment, that's supported by renunciation. It says, in the sections where we trained ourselves in the steps that are shared with practitioners of lesser and medium capacity. So remember, the teachings shared in common with beings of small and medium capacity, the teachings of small capacity that show us how to get rid of the lower realms of cyclic existence and have a higher realm rebirth by practicing an ethics that abandons the 10 non-virtuous activities, going for refuge to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And if we engage in negativity, purifying that with the 4 opponent powers, confessing that negativity. And in reliance upon those practices, we can achieve higher realm rebirth. We found this out in the teachings shared in common with beings of small capacity. And we found out what the ethical standards were going to be necessary for us to be able to achieve those particular kinds of goals. And then in the medium scope, the teachings for beings of medium capacity, or if we're looking at it in terms of a continuum into the great scope, the teachings shared in common with beings of medium capacity, we find out how to eject from cyclic existence altogether, how to get rid of all 6 realms of cyclic existence by practicing the 3 highest higher trainings. We've come to learn that all 6 realms of cyclic existence are disgusting. They're a prison. They're a burning house that we need to get out of as quickly as possible, plagued with the 8 sufferings, the 6 sufferings, and the 3 sufferings. So once we've come to the conclusion that we are in a burning house that we must get out of, we meditated on the sufferings of the lower realms and of the entire cycle of existence but relative only to ourselves. In this way, we develop the virtue of a healthy disgust for the kind of life that we live. So we're supposed to be disgusted with cyclic existence. Like it's like tasting vomit in our mouths, as I've heard Venerable Rabina Corton say back in the late 90s. This is what cyclic existence, this is what a Ferrari should feel like to us, vomit in our mouths. Winning the lottery, oh, that'll solve all our problems. Winning the lottery is vomit in my mouth. Why? Because it's in cyclic existence and it's disgusting. This is the kind of renunciation we're talking about. I renounce suffering. I want to be happy. Renunciation isn't, I got to hold myself back from happiness. It's no, I'm disgusted with not being happy. I'm disgusted with suffering and I want out. This is what renunciation is. It's sold as all the wrong things. It's, I don't want suffering. I want out of suffering. I renounce suffering. I renounce the self. I want to get out of the self-grasping ignorance that drives me over and over and over again, thrusts me, propels me into a set of contaminated aggregates among the 4 or 5 without any freedom. And a lack of freedom is misery. So here you take the same thoughts. Okay, so now I'm thinking I don't have freedom. I have misery. I'm in a burning house. I need to get out. I have 8 sufferings. I have 6 sufferings. I have 3 sufferings. Now you take those same thoughts and transfer them. You try to feel them relative to the condition that others are in. So you have this feeling, you want to get out. Now you make that feeling the way you feel about everyone else in the universe. I want to get out. I'm in a prison. I need to get out of this house that's on fire as quickly as possible. Where's the door? You feel that way about everyone else in the universe when you develop bodhicitta. Where's the door so I can bring everyone out of it? Then compassion and the other attitudes will start to grow within you. Train your mind thus in the proper progression using either the 7-point cause and effect instruction or else the practice of exchanging self and others. Following these methods as the books on the stages of the path to Buddhahood describe them. So we have very specific steps. We've been learning the first mode of practice, the 7-point cause and effect for realizing the mind that aspires to enlightenment, passed down from Buddha Shakyamuni to Lord Maitreya to Master Asanga, down through the extensive deeds lineage, through Master Salimpa and Lord Atisha, and the great Master Drone Tompa, and then down through the various lineages to us. We've been looking at the 7-point cause and effect. We've reached the place where we're looking at what love is within that, the 4th step, fourth proper step. We've been looking at what love through the force of attraction is within that. And we've gone over very thoroughly the pre-step of equanimity and the other foundational steps where we're learning to become attracted to other sentient beings, and which ones? Every one of them in the universe without any kind of wavering, without any kind of bias. We've set this foundation up to have affection for beings by seeing first the pre-step of equanimity, and then we've become, after that, open-minded to being able to benefit every single sentient being, open-minded, and then we recognize that every one of them has been our mothers, remember their kindness, and then make a pact that we want to repay their kindness. And then because we've recognized how kind they've been, we have this affection for them, and then say, I want them to have happiness and the causes of happiness, and this is the love that we're reading about now. So, and then from there we say, I want them to be free from suffering and the causes of suffering, and that's compassion. And then I'll take it upon myself the task of doing this, of freeing them from suffering and taking them to a state of happiness. That's the altruistic attitude that spontaneously arises. And then you recognize that like like all sentient beings are caught in the iron net of ignorance. You're caught in the rivers of the 4 birth, aging, sickness, and death. And the only being who really knows, who's really a reliable guide, who really could, figure out a way to eject others from the suffering that you want to be ejected from, and bring them to a happiness that you want to be brought to, would be to know exactly what they need. And it's only the Buddha who knows that. It's only the Buddha who's totally happy and totally free. And we recognize at this point in the step that we must become a Buddha. And that's the actual resultant state of bodhicitta that occurs. So it says you must train in all the relevant details. Example would be committing yourself through formal rituals to a wish as a prayer and the wish as an actual action. So there's the aspiring bodhicitta ceremonies that Geshe Dorje Damdula regularly does that you've been to. And then there's the actual engaged bodhicitta, the bodhisattva vows, the 18 root and 46 secondary vows. For engaged bodhicitta. But right now we're speaking of aspiring bodhicitta, and there's actually ceremonies you can take that may I become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient being. It's a wish ritual. Wish is actual action. Once you have reached a point such as finding your first strong feelings of familiarity with the wish. So let me reread that. You must train yourself in all relevant details. An example would be committing yourself through formal rituals to the wish as a prayer and to the wish as actual action once you had reached a point such as finding your first strong feelings of familiarity with the wish. So you have the strong aspirational bodhicitta, and from that basis, because when we look at Panchen Sonandrapa's general meaning of perfection, the mental basis for engaged bodhicitta is aspiring bodhicitta. Makes sense. None of this stuff doesn't make sense, by the way. It's all logic, analysis, and reasoning. And if you study it, you'll come to be convinced that it just makes sense. The meaning of the root text here is as follows. So I have slipped and fallen into the sea of and pain of this suffering life. That is, I have dropped into the ocean of cyclic births. I cannot even guess how deep it is, not how far its edges lie, the great sea waves of my deeds and my afflictions in my mind, of birth and getting old and death, and they just raging around me. A great host of ruthless creatures living in the water rise up and attack me constantly. These are the three sufferings: the suffering of suffering, the suffering of change, and pervasive compounded suffering. They rip at me, they torture me relentlessly, unceasingly. And the same thing is happening to every other living being. Every one of them has been my mother in the past. In the beginningless string of lives I have lived through, they cared for me, sheltered me with incredible kindness. I must learn to see how all these fellow beings have slipped and fallen in too, how they have been thrown down into misery by this massive suffering. And then I must resolve to take upon myself the task of freeing all of them from every pain and from every cause of pain. I must assure they reach every form of happiness. I will do it myself alone without wanting or depending on anyone else. Beyond everything, I myself will see to it that every one of them climbs to the state of a Buddha. Wow, so inspiring. In short, said the Lama, we are asking our Lama for the ability to find fierce feelings of love and compassion, states of mind where we cannot bear not a moment longer to watch our fellow mother sentient beings live so bereft of happiness and so plagued by suffering. We are asking that these feelings inspire in us the highest aspiration, the true and uncontrived wish for enlightenment. And we are asking our Lama for the ability to meditate upon this wish, practice it, and make it totally perfect right here in this very seat before we stand up again. Wow, so cool, right? Okay, so the one other thing that I had planned for this evening, we have about 15 more minutes, and this shouldn't take too much time, is I wanted to read from the fifth Dalai Lama's text, the words of Manjushri. So we know that the fifth Dalai Lama, 17th century master, we've gone over a little bit of history here and there with fifth Dalai Lama. His teacher was Panchen Losang Chuji Jetsen, who we consider the first or the fourth Panchen Lama, depending on how you're counting, who was the abbot of Tache Lompo at the time. He was his teacher and also one of his ordination masters. And so the fifth Dalai Lama was an incredible writer, practitioner, very open-minded, very against sectarianism, considered in the Dzogchen lineage as a holder of the Nyingma lineage. So this is something that was really special about the fifth Dalai Lama, that he was really open. And if you look at, you see the Potala Palace in Lhasa. This was built, we'll say, by the fifth Dalai Lama. So the Potala Palace over a 45-year period was built by the fifth Dalai Lama, and they say rebuilt or expanded upon because it was built on the same exact site. Just a little history for anyone who wants history. The Potala Palace was built on the same site that King Sunsangampo in the 7th century put a palace. And I think the story is out of love for the Chinese empress that he was with. So anyway, you can look into this history. You all know I'm not a historian, but I want to just give you a little bit of taste of what all of this is. So fifth Dalai Lama built the Potala Palace over 45 years. It's in the same place that Sunsangampo's palace was, the emperor of Tibet, who was considered an emanation of Avalokiteshvara. Fifth Dalai Lama was a student of the first Panchen Lama, recognized the Panchen lineage, gave the Tashi Lumpo Monastery, which the first Panchen Lama, Panchen Losang Chuji Jetsun, was an abbot of, actually to the Panchen Lama lineage. Tashi Lumpo Monastery was built by the first Dalai Lama, Jao Gendon Drup. So you see the Tashi Lumpo monasteries become the seats of the Panchen Lama. So all of this history happens out of the fifth Dalai Lama, the Panchen Lama lineage, a lot of incredible text. And one incredible text is called the Words of Manjushri, and it's a commentary on Lama Tsongkhapa's great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment. And it's a practice manual, and it's written in a beautiful way. So I'm not going to give any commentary on it because we won't have time this evening, but I'd like to bring you through this meditation on love because this is where we're at in the section. So I want to bring us each time we have class back to exactly where we were last time. We were looking at that 4th step in the 7-point cause and effect for realizing bodhicitta of love through the force of attraction and finding sentient beings as lovable and wanting them to have happiness and the causes of happiness. And we looked at Lama Tsongkhapa's great treatise on the stage of the path to enlightenment, looked at the various sutra quotes, and looked at the quote from Arya Nagarjuna from the Precious Garland, and came to find out, there's sentient beings who are bereft of happiness, or are who you are looking at and wanting them to have happiness is your wish, and saying how nice it would be that they have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they have this, and I'll be a cause of this. So that's what we learned from the Lamrim Chemo. So what I want to do is I'm just going to read a paragraph that sets this up. It's actually the concluding paragraph of the section on wishing to repay the kindness. So I won't go into that, but we've went into it so deeply that I'm hoping that you're all experts by now about this, at least the first 4 steps and the pre-step of the 7-point cause and effect for realizing bodhicitta. So it's essential that you have this step before love through the force of attraction of wishing to repay their kindness, because there's a conviction there that says that, oh, I really, they were so kind to me. I'm attracted to them. I must repay their kindness. I want them to be happy. So then if you wonder how to help them, so how would you repay their kindness? So this is where my commentary will stop. And I'm going to just begin. Only commentary I'll give is when we switch steps. So right now, this is the conclusion of wishing to repay their kindness in this section on the words of Manjushri by the 5th Dalai Lama, 17th century master, incredible scholar. And I encourage all of you to read his works. It's in this book, The Stages of the Path and the Oral Transmission, Selected Teachings of the Gelug School, translated by Thupten Jimba, Dr. Thupten Jimba. We're really fortunate to have this translation. Okay, you ready? Okay, thinking about sentient beings or your mother, remembering all of their kindness, and now I will care for them by removing each of their temporary sufferings. Hold on one second. Okay. I will care for them by removing each of their temporary sufferings, providing the hungry with food, the thirsty with drink, those suffering from illness with medicine, the poor with goods, and so forth. Since this will allow me to acquire merit, it is not inappropriate. However, if I focus mainly on helping them by providing them with samsaric power and wealth, I should keep in mind that they have been born as Brahma and other worldly gods like Ishvara and as universal sovereigns countless times before, and despite this, they still have not achieved any real happiness. These were just more occasions for them to experience sufferings like poverty, heat, and cold by mainly providing them with contaminated happiness, since pleasures changes into suffering. The greater their power and wealth become, the more their grief will increase. It will be like pouring salt on a wound. For this reason, I shall lead all beings to a state of either liberation or omniscience. Be sure to reflect on this well to inspire yourself. Now we're moving on. This is the foundation that's been set up. Now to have affection for beings, and now caring for beings starts to take over. Just setting the foundation for generating the wish to pursue others' welfare is insufficient. You are to actually produce it by cultivating the three: love, compassion, and the altruistic intention. Although there is no fixed order or causal relationship between love and compassion, respectively, the wish for others' happiness and the wish to end their suffering. Generally, the custom is to begin with love. Ari Nagarjuna's Precious Garland says, even giving 3 times each day 300 special dishes of food does not match the merit of one brief moment of love. You become loved by gods and beings, and they protect you. You know mental joy and much physical well-being. Poison and weapons can't harm you. You achieve your goals effortlessly and are born in Brahma's realm. Even if you do not achieve liberation, you will attain these 8 benefits of love. To cultivate love, which has unlimited advantages, contemplate your mother of this life. She may or may not be experiencing manifest suffering like illness and poverty. Nevertheless, reflect on how, in any event, she lacks happiness from being subject to the suffering of change and the suffering of pervasive conditioning. Once you have generated a strong wish to establish your mother who is deprived of happiness in a state of joy, say, how marvelous it would be if sentient beings, my mothers of old, in previous lives, it means mothers of old, previous lives, previous mothers, who are our mothers now because they were our previous mothers, who are deprived of happiness, could be happy. May they be so. By all means, I will ensure that they are happy. Repeat this many times, reflecting on the meaning. How marvelous it would be if sentient beings, my mothers of old, who are deprived of happiness, could be happy. May they be so. By all means, I will ensure that they are happy. So it says, repeat this over and over. You should meditate similarly in relation to all beings, unconditionally, unbiased, in the same sequence as before: friends, neutrals, enemies, and so on. You are to adapt your meditation to each circumstance in the 3 unfortunate realms. Beings are undergoing manifest sufferings, and in fortunate realms, they either are or are not experiencing the same. So the point of that is here, I said I wouldn't explain, but when we look at the suffering of suffering, the suffering of change and the pervasive compounded suffering, all of the higher realms don't have all 3 sufferings, but they have at least among the pervasive compounded suffering. So we can go into that another time. So we look at, no matter where a being is in cyclic existence, their experience among the 3 sufferings. When you consider refusing to help someone because you deem the person as an enemy who has hurt you, remember that it was the harm you did to him or her in a past life that circled back to you. In any case, the person's actions were prompted by his afflictions or her afflictions against their will. If your present mother or another loved one was crazed by a demon and struck you with a weapon, you would not get angry with her. Instead, you would look for a way to have that demon exorcised. Wow, that's powerful. Similarly, your old mothers of the past that you now mistakenly see as enemies are crazed by the demon-like afflictions. For this reason, you should think as before, how marvelous it would be if they could be free of the demonic afflictions and could find happiness, and so forth. This practice is of great importance. Imagine that cultivating love for your enemies will not, imagining that cultivating love for your enemies will not be problematic because you have already meditated on the fact that they have been your mothers, indicates a complete lack of discernment. So if you can't do it, you aren't discerning it right. It's self-evident that some unscrupulous people perceive their mother in this life as an enemy, hurt her in a variety of ways, and may even go as far to kill her. Once you've cultivated love for sentient beings, next it's time for compassion. Okay. Thank you so much, everybody, for your kind listening. I really appreciate all of you. Let's now dedicate all this merit we created to becoming a Buddha. The old Kadampa masters say there's two important times when we're doing any virtuous practice or a teaching. The beginning, we should set our motivation with the motivation of bodhicitta, the most excellent motivation in the world, the highest aspiration, as it says in Arya Nagarjuna's commentary on bodhicitta. It's the highest aspiration that we can have. And then the second part that's important is to dedicate the merit to becoming a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings, so it becomes a cause for that. The fundamental ground is scented with incense and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the four continents, the sun, and the moon. I imagine this is a Buddha land and offer it. May all sentient beings enjoy this pure realm. I dedicate whatever virtues I have collected for the benefit of the teachings of all sentient beings, and in particular for the essential teachings of Venerable Losang Drapa to shine forever. I send forth this mandala to you, jeweled mandala to you, precious Guru. Any mistakes that I've made, may they be purified by the mantra of Vajrasattva. Om Betsasata Samaya Manavalai Bensasata Zena Vajradhi the Mevaza the Guy Mevaza Bugai Meva Rag Mevaza Vazini Me Brajasava comes in Rangi Jim Jingroma Bhagavanza Tataka Benzama Moka Benzabava Maha Samaya Sapa Ah Hum Fe. May we always be protected by Baldan Lamo, the wrathful emanation of Tara, our protector. Jo Rama Jo Rama Jo Rama Jo Galara Jo Rama Jo Hong Jo Hong Jo Rama Jo Rama Jo Rama Jo Galara Jo Rama Jo Hong Jo Hong Jo Rama Jo Rama Jo Rama Jo Galara Jo Rama Jo Rilla Hong Jo Hong. I dedicate all this virtue to emulate the knowledge of the hero Manjushri and likewise Samantabhadra as well, with whatever dedication is praised as supreme by all the conquerors who traverse the three times. I also dedicate all my roots of virtue for the sake of auspicious deeds. May the supreme jewel bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish but increase forevermore. In all my lives, may I never be separated from my precious gurus. May I bask in the glory of the Dharma. May I fulfill perfectly every good quality of every level and path, and reach then quickly the place where I become myself the one who holds the diamond. In the heavenly realm of Tibet, surrounded by a chain of snow mountains, you are the source of all benefit and help for beings. All-powerful Avalokiteshvara Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. A prayer of supplication to Namgyal Khyentse Geshe Wandak Rinpoche, my root teacher, but also I feel that Geshe Lobsang Gompo is just a manifestation of Khyentse Geshe Wandak Rinpoche, but may Geshe Lobsang Gompo Rinpoche swiftly return and help sentient beings the way that he was helping sentient beings. I'm sure he's already doing so. But may I always be connected to Geshe Lobsang Gompo Rinpoche, who was so kind to me, and Rinpoche, Khyentse Geshe Wandak Rinpoche was so kind to me to introduce me to him. And now Geshe Umzala Geshe Aga is so kind to me, giving teachings. And of course, we can't forget Geshe Dorje Damdula Rinpoche, who is an incredible, incredible scholar who's helping us all to understand these complex topics more and more, who was also a student of Namgyal Khyentse Geshe Wandak Rinpoche. Wow. A complex yogi poses as a simple monk. Homage to Namgyal Khyentse Geshe Wandak Rinpoche, our precious spiritual friend who is inseparable from Arya Tara. I fully prostrate, covering as many atoms of the earth as possible to your pure body, speech, mind, and enlightened activities. I offer to you drinking water, bathing water, flowers, incense, candles, scented water, food, and music, purified by Om, 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 Om. The rarity of having 1 million wish-fulfilling gems is a common occurrence compared to meeting with a holy teacher like you who placed the complete path to Buddhahood in our childlike hands. Just like Lord Atisha, who came to Tibet with a lamp to dispel the darkness of ignorance, you, kind abbot, arrived in the West with a lineage purer than a diamond and begged us never to be satisfied with partial instructions. Teachings of the extensive deeds and profound view lineages flowed from your lips like nectar for our ears. It elucidated the teachings for beings of three capacities. Now that sound has stopped. All composite things are impermanent. You told us that all of your teachers passed away and understood the sadness, entreating us to continue our studies. The Buddha does not wash away the negativities, nor does he remove their miseries by his hands. His spiritual realizations are not transferred to them. It's by teaching the truth of suchness that beings are liberated. We are not prepared to take this difficult journey to the highest enlightenment, highest goodness of Buddhahood. Without your continued guidance, the sadness in our hearts would be too overwhelming. May he swiftly return to this world, take care of us in all of our lives, wherever we may be, never leaving our hearts and crowns. May all sentient beings perfectly realize renunciation, bodhicitta, and the correct view of emptiness, so they know who you really are. And Venerable Thupten Chodron said over the weekend in New York City, if you want to know who Arya Tara really is, read Lama Tsongkhapa's Three Principal Aspects of the Path, because that's who Aryatara really is. It gave me goosebumps because I had written this 3 years before, and I guess we all come to these conclusions when we really start to read about who these teachers are and what they're manifesting, what makes them so special. What makes them so special are these three principal paths of renunciation, bodhicitta, and emptiness that they've realized that make them glow like diamonds of the world. Thank you so much. You too can glow like the diamond of the world. It just takes the steps that they've taken that we haven't been willing to take just yet. But today, from this cushion where you're sitting, make it a pact with yourself that I will do what these incredibly qualified, loving, joyful, blissful masters did. I'll do what they did because I want what they have. Thank you. See y'all.